You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
Before we get started, let's hear this short message from one of my supporters.
All the things that you won't do.
Did you know 81% of Americans would like to become a published author? Chances are you might be one of them. What's stopping you? Writing and publishing a book takes a lot of work and is expensive, right? Well, not anymore. For your next book project, or even your first, team up with Hassle-Free Books. They make it so easy to become an author. They remove all of the fuss and struggle and make it smooth and simple. And it's far more affordable than you could ever imagine. Go to hasslefreebooks.com and use promo code UNPAUSE to receive a 10% discount off of any book project. Get started right away and become a published author in as little as 45 days. For your free 1-hour book formula guide, which will show you just how painless it can be to become an author, head to hasslefreebooks.com today.
All right. Thanks again for joining me. Let's get started with today's show.
Took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of life.
Thank you for tuning in to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. My guest today is Chanda Lynn. Very excited to have her. You have seen her on social media. She's dominating the airwaves. She's a recovering addict of 3 years. Her addiction lasted 6 years and included every drug imaginable, although her drug of choice was painkillers. She went through 1 pregnancy and active addiction and spent her first year as a mother strung out. With a miraculous encounter with God, she was able to recover and is now a full-time mother to 2 beautiful children, an activist, a recovering addict, a poet, and a public speaker. Welcome, Chanda.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Very excited to have you. So tell us a little bit what you're doing now on social media. You are all over social media, engaging and letting people know how to break the stigma. So let's talk about that for a second.
I started out doing one video for my hometown. I saw this guy who was rapping, and he was talking about addiction, but he had never personally been there. And so I put a video out, a little bit about my experience, and it's just grown from there. And I started putting my poetry out there, and people love to hear that. So it's gotten very large over the last, I would say, like 2 or 3 months. We've reached over 100,000 people on my page now. It's people are ready for recovery, I think. I think people are tired of hearing about overdoses and death and not having solutions. So I guess that's my role to play to offer some.
That's awesome. And you're using the media of poetry and rap and public speaking to deliver the message, correct?
Yes.
So how did you get into that? The arts are so interesting and people can really relate to the arts.
Well, I've been writing poetry since I was like 6 or 7 years old, and like going through before I was even addicted, it was my main outlet that I had for anything. But it became very dark, and throughout my addiction, writing poetry through my addiction was also very dark. And when I came into recovery and had my experience with God, my writing style changed, and I just decided one day I'll put it out to the world to see what people think, and it's been very successful. And I could share my story a million times over, but I think when, I share my poetry, it touches somebody's heart. And that's something that they remember. And I think that's why it's been as successful as it has been.
So tell me a little bit about your story. How did you get into addiction, and how did you, more importantly, get out of addiction and get into recovery?
So I started when I was 16. I mean, I had smoked weed for, I don't know, a couple years, but I got my tonsils out, and my brother had already been in active addiction. I didn't understand what he was going through. After I got my tonsils out, I had the codeine cough syrup, and he drank all of my cough syrup. So I had nothing, and my mom went out on the streets and got me some Vicodin. So I continued on the painkillers. My grandma had been prescribed painkillers for 30 years. She started giving them to me. If it weren't for probably, my grandma and grandpa having a steady supply, I would have moved on to something else very quickly. And I stayed in active addiction for about 6 years. There was only one period where I, really cut off. I found this of what I thought was an amazing guy, and then got pregnant, and he decided he didn't want me in his life, and he didn't want the baby, and I fell pretty hard back into active addiction. And I think it was August of 2014, and I said, God, if you're real, take everybody out of my life that gives me drugs. And it was immediately, like 2 weeks after, my grandma came to me, and she's like, I don't want to take these pills anymore. I want to get off of them. Can you help me? And she had been on them 30 years, like morphine, Oxycontin, Percocet, and she got off of them. And then my grandpa found out I was stealing his pills, and I had them for years. He just found out, and he cut me off. My one dealer went to a 3-year rehab, and my other dealer went to jail. This was all within like a couple months period after praying that prayer. And these were people that had been there for years. So I was not able to go to treatment with detox because I had my son. I had nobody to keep him. So on a whim, I had asked my cousin to keep him, and she kept him for, I believe it was 4 or 5 days. And I detoxed at my mom's house on her couch. And, my recovery story isn't because I'm strong. It isn't because I'm amazing or anything like that. It was because I have a God that loves me, that wanted to live.
I always find it interesting when people say they give their will up to God, or they decide this is it, I'm done, and it just shifts. It's like instant, and there's no rhyme or reason for it or anything like that. I mean, it's sort of the story that I hear from most people that are in the depths of addiction and stuck there. When they reach out and say, I'm done, and that's it, it just happens. And it's like, we can't even explain it. It's just esoteric, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, there's, for those people who have been there for years and years, and then just within that couple month period to all be gone, there was, really no denying it after that. I had overdosed before, and, I was having a close to near-death experience where I was not going to a good place. I had cried out to God in that moment, saying, please save my life, I'll stop. And he did save me, but I didn't stop, It wasn't until a few months after when, I was tired of being a failure. I was tired of not being a mother and being a disappointment to everybody and hating myself and wanting to kill myself every single day. And I think he had bigger plans for me, very obviously. So I'm very fortunate. I really am.
That's awesome. So what advice do you give our listeners that are still using, that can't get out of that spot where they're stuck and they just feel despair and hopeless?
They have to advocate for themselves. It took me a while to realize that, though I did have a miraculous experience, it didn't all just go away. I still had to work. I still had to take certain steps myself. And it was really advocating for myself, standing up for myself, realizing that maybe I was worth living. Maybe I was worth having a life and progressing somewhere. And it starts with reaching out. Had I have had the opportunity to go to treatment, I would have. And I see a lot of people who are in active addiction that have their family members fighting for them, that have people that love them, that want to help them so desperately, and they turn away from them. I didn't have that. I reached out several times and told people close to me, I'm going to die, I need help, and they didn't care if I lived or died. So I would say to the people that have people fighting for you, recognize how special that is, because for those of us that didn't have it, it's really upsetting to watch people be handed treatment, be handed love, just in continuous support and turn it away. But for those that don't have anything, maybe like I did, it's going to start with you reaching out, you telling your secrets, because your secrets are keeping you sick, making sure that you're putting the next best steps in your path. It's a conscious effort you make.
That's excellent, because what I hear a lot of times is, in this space anyway, people that want to get sober expect someone else to save them. And they say, okay, I'm ready now, come fix me. And there's no fix, there's no cure. And what I see is a lot of people don't want to put the work and the time and the energy and the effort into getting sober. It's not easy. And they say, here I am, fix me. And they go to treatment for 30 days and go, okay, why am I not fixed?
Yeah, I had that happen with my brother, over the last couple of years of getting him in and out of treatment centers. And he wanted the world handed to him. And because this center didn't have this, it wasn't acceptable for him. And it was everybody else's fault. And, this last stint, he had to be homeless. And he had to wait to go to treatment. And nobody was rescuing him. And it's finally working for him. And I think the thing that irritates me most about addiction is that people in active addiction believe the world owes them something. That's the way that I felt, at least. And realizing that the world really doesn't owe me anything. And if nothing else, I've actually done a lot worse to it than anything good was a big eye-opener for me.
Yeah, saying that. So you started to realize you need to contribute. You need to be a mom, number one, because you're not being a mom. If you're using drugs, you're not being the best mom you can be. And number two, contribute to the world, leave a legacy, basically. And when I work with my clients, that's the piece that's always missing. They always say, I've been downtrodden for so long. I've been called stupid and an idiot and fat and whatever. And I just can't get past that. And who's going to want what I have anyway? So, but the one thing I love about having you on the show is that you took that and went, I'm going to create poetry because that's what I like. And I'm going to touch people through that. And it's a medium that's very neutral. It's not, here's how I got sober and you need to do this and you need to go here. It's just very, very neutral. And someone can hear that and go, I'm ready. Just because they heard something you wrote or saw something on Facebook that you did. And it's such a nice way to get through to people that may not respond to the normal traditional intervention or sitting down and saying, hey, you need to go to treatment.
I actually have a lot of that, of people that have been sprung upon and had their family reach out to them and all that. And I think it comes down again to touching somebody's heart, touching somebody's spirit. And that's why this works. I'm not the person that's necessarily sitting on video telling you my entire life story. It's not my favorite thing to do. I think people know there are 12 steps, there are certain programs, and maybe, the world's wanting a little something different. I'm not sure, but it seems like it. I get thousands of people who message, and just the things I hear, it's hard because I still struggle with self-esteem and realizing that, not even necessarily my words, because I believe God works through me, but that whatever I've written can make such a big impact. It's still something hard to grasp onto, I guess, but I make myself willing. I have to give back. Look at how much I've done, when I look at what I've done to my son's life and to the people that I love. And I take that very personally, that I need to do something to contribute, to give back, and not even only fix the wrongs and the mistakes I've done, but to prevent the next generation from becoming addicted. I feel like that's my responsibility.
Now, where does that come from? That you think it's your responsibility? Where does that come from?
Well, I look at being addicted while I was pregnant and having my son for the first year of his life and all of the decisions I made. I'm already terrified that he's not only growing up in a world where it's normal to scroll through on Facebook and see somebody overdosing in their car, where it's normal that kids are doing heroin in high school now, but then the impact that I made on him, even though he might not remember, I still think that was a vital time in his life. And, if I was part of the problem, if I was the one dealing, if I was the one buying the drugs, if I was somehow supplying this whole epidemic, then, I take it very personally. I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure the next generation doesn't become addicted. It's a lot of us who are in recovery do feel like we need to make an impact, like we need to educate the world. But, there are a lot of people who look right past it, and then it happens to their families. So maybe because I'm more conscious that it is an issue, maybe that's why I feel like it's my responsibility. I'm not sure, but I don't feel like it's fair to hand down this problem for the next generation to inherit either. They're just innocent kids. They don't, deserve to grow up in a world the way it is right now, where overdoses killing more people than car accidents and gun violence. I don't want to pass that to my kids. And I think nobody should want that.
Yeah, that's exactly true. We've done some damage. We've done some bad things in our past, and it's important now in recovery to give back, and it's important to do the right thing. And it's so interesting as I meet people, they say, well, I'm sober and that's all I'm going to do. And I always say, well, what are you doing with your life? Like, what else are you doing? What else could you be doing to help other people or help the world? And so many people just don't get that piece of this. Like, that's such a big part of recovery, is helping other people along the path. And it's interesting to see how the generations have changed. So our generation is into helping and giving back, and the newer generation is very me-centric, where it's, me, it's all about me, and I don't have to do anything beyond that. And they're having such trouble staying sober. And I think it has a lot to do with that exact piece, that there's no helping anyone else. There's no connection.
I agree with that. If it literally weren't for me helping other people, I can't say I wouldn't be in recovery, that I would relapse, but I wouldn't be thriving. I wouldn't be where I'm meant to be. It's such a vital role in my life, not even just recovery, just my life in general. I don't know. I feel like the whole world needs to take that on, though, not just people in recovery. Like, we would be able to make such a positive impact for not only the next generation, but the one that lives now, if we would just take things a little bit more personally, pick up a little bit more responsibility. And maybe the kid that's starving at the end of the street, well, instead of waiting for somebody else to feed them, we feed them. I don't like looking at problems and then passing them by. And I don't think it's fair to the kids. I really don't. I'm terrified for my kids. I have little ones, and I look at how easy it was for me to fall into it. And that's my biggest fear for them. So I do a lot of it for them. And I think if people understood that it can happen to their kids and their grandkids, and really embrace that, they would probably do a little more as well.
I totally agree with that. Now, you also do some work with transformations as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. So what is that like? And I'm assuming people come to you going, hey, my kid's using drugs or I'm using drugs, help me. So tell me how that process works.
My job is not to get people into treatment. People with no insurance, Medicaid, reach out to me. They're homeless. They just overdosed. So I have this, not a vendetta, but I see it a lot online with people who are against treatment centers. They're very untrusting of all of them. They're all bad. And that was kind of me for a while. I was very doubtful of the whole system. And so I swore I'm never going to work with a treatment center. And I did with one for a couple of weeks, and it was terrible. So I had quit there. And then Ryan and I had talked, and he's like, well, this is a place I work for. He told me about them. And then I had talked to them. I told them about me. And what really got me about transformations is that they hired a guy named Andrew, who his only job is to help people who have Medicaid and no insurance into treatment. And if anybody knows anything about treatment centers, that's not very common. A lot of treatment centers' prerogatives are to get people with the good insurance, and then, sorry, we can't help you if you don't have the right type. So right off the bat, they spoke to me. And ever since then, I've been writing blogs and articles for them. And I went down to Florida and I met these people that truly cared about recovery. Two of my bosses, Tim and Alexis, have never been in addiction. They're not in recovery, but they're so empathetic. They care so much about it. They want to understand it. They do everything in their power to research it. That was something new to me. So it's been incredible. They're really people in a place I stand behind. And I never thought I'd get to that point because I wasn't a fan of treatment centers.
You mean a treatment center that cares about people? That exists?
Yeah.
I'm being facetious. I've been doing this
You know
25
what?
years. I'm being facetious. I've been doing this 25 years, and I've seen more uh, interesting things happen. Let's put it that way. Someone wants to go to treatment, and it's like vultures. I'll take him. I'll take him. I'll take him. And I've done some work with transformations. I love them. And I've sent people there that have come out. They are a very caring facility. And that is so rare in today's world because it's so money driven now. It used to be client driven, patient driven. Now it's money driven, especially in down here in Florida. So it's nice to
Oh, I
see
know.
the work that they're doing and how they really put the emphasis on people and not the monetary component of it.
Absolutely. It's a whole new. It blew my mind because I came from this biased stance, and it was definitely eye opening. And like I said, with them never being in addiction or recovery and then caring so much about it, I deal with people on a daily basis that tell me I should die because I'm a junkie. So having, people like that actually care, it gave me some hope for the world.
Are you getting that on social media? Are you getting negative comments like that?
If you go on to my video, there's a a video I did about addiction and being a choice and all of that. If you just scroll through, I think you'll find your answer. When I first started, it was terrible. People telling me all the time, if you were in active addiction, I would give you drugs to do things to you. Like I would get messages like you should have killed yourself and all kinds of stuff. But as my page has grown, for the most part, people have become more compassionate. So I can't say it's as bad as it was like a year ago. But with certain things I post, I still get the junkie stuff. I mean, that's normal to me now, though. I don't take it personally. I know that if I'm getting pushed back and I'm getting hate, then my message is being spread to where it should be. And that's how I view it now.
Wow. I've got a class coming out for internet addiction, and we talk about the keyboard commando in there of how people, things they would never say to your face in public, they'll sit behind a computer and say the nastiest, raunchiest stuff like you should kill yourself or you're just a junkie, or you're stupid or you're fat or you're ugly or whatever. Yet these are things people would never say to you. They sit behind the computer and do it. And it amazes me. When I first came out in 2012 in private practice again, I got hit with one of the biggest competitors that works for a television station as an interventionist that started posting on my wall all kinds of nonsense. And he owns a treatment center.
Really?
Yep. And I said,
Wow.
if we have this level of somebody who owns a treatment center talking to people like that, what does everyone else say? It always amazes me because it's like, A, it's not helpful. B, it riles up everybody. So once somebody says something negative, it's like vultures. It's very interesting how everybody has to be negative all of a sudden. We can't be positive and be a positive collective. And
I know.
I'm sorry you have to go through that. It baffles me how people feel tearing you down makes them feel better.
It used to make me upset when people would talk about my family, not necessarily me. If somebody has something negative to say about me, my ego wants to defend itself. And I've learned the difference now. There is me, who I know that I am, who everybody knows that I am, okay? If somebody says something like, oh, you're just a junkie, you're worthless, whatever, then it's not me being offended personally. It's my ego, because myself, I know that that's not me. And my ego wants to jump and say, no, I'm not this, I'm not that. I don't even give it face anymore because, I'm solid enough to know who I am now. And I just caution people who get into this work, especially on social media, if you don't have thick skin, if you haven't addressed your ego issues and you're not solid with who you are yourself, maybe wait a little bit or try it out. But the junkie stuff will come. It does. Anytime you talk about addiction, and even posts that I don't, I put a picture up on Instagram. Addiction isn't an effing disease, you junkie. It's just a picture. So I don't know. I know that it's working though. I know, if everybody loved me, if everybody was like, oh God, everything you do is amazing, all of this and that, then obviously I'm with kindred spirits, but I'm not where I need to be reaching, because I'm trying to reach the people who do hate people like me and change their perspectives. And I have reached a lot of those people and I have done that. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother.
I've always said your opinion of me is none of my business. And that takes
That's a
people
good
back.
one. I heard that one.
Yeah, because they say, what is that supposed to mean? Well, how you feel about me has nothing to do with me. It's all about you. So if you don't
Yep.
like me because I posted something or I said something or I got hate mail. I was in the gym the other day and I posted a picture in my shorts and I got this nasty email from this guy saying, how dare you walk around in shorts? I'm like, you have to be kidding me. I'm in Florida. It's 90 degrees hot and humid. What am I supposed to wear? Kimono? So it's just the constant, I think you should nonsense, or I think you're a junkie because I feel that way. Well, who cares? That's your opinion, you know? So,
Right.
and it's hard for people in early recovery to get on that because they've been downtrodden for so long that they get a couple days sober or they get a month sober and somebody calls them something nasty on social media and they go out and they use because that's their coping mechanism. That's what they do. So
Yep.
if we could build people up instead of tear them down, I think we would see a higher success rate. And I'm so glad you're doing that kind of work because it's so important and so hard to do.
Well, I appreciate it. I was the worst when I was in my addiction. I hated myself more than anybody could possibly hate me. I called myself a junkie a million times over. I had no self-esteem. And I see so many people now who are like that. It's not that I normalize their addiction, but I make it like, it's a health issue. It's not like you're, I don't know, like a leper, like you have leprosy and that was so taboo. I try to make it not taboo. Like it's not crazy. It's not terrible that you have mental health issues. It's okay. I want you to change, obviously, but I want you to feel comfortable to talk about it. And if you do go on my page, there are so many people that would have never talked about it, never put it out there and just sharing their entire story for the world to see. And it's this crazy shift when you just make people feel comfortable with themselves and make them feel like they're not alone. And I believe that's what this page has done is just, given a sense of unity to downtrodden and lonely people. And it's quite the impact. It is watching it evolve.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, I appreciate you and I appreciate the work that you're doing because it's not easy work. It's not easy to put yourself out there and deal with the backlash, especially being a female. We haven't even talked about that yet. A female in this space, we get eaten alive and chewed up by both the men and the women. The women's got the jealousy factor, And the men, how dare you have more likes on Facebook than them? And how dare you be more powerful than them? And it's just ridiculous, just nonsense. Like we should all be working together as a collective to help the community instead of fighting against each other.
Well, I agree. It's definitely something different being a female doing this than being a male. It's been watching, men do the same exact things I do, similar videos, posting similar posts, and then the comments I get versus them. Very different. But, I'm the type, where I grew up playing football. I was the only girl on my football team. I was the only running back, only female. So I faced a lot of flack there. I boxed, I wrestled. So I always saw myself as equivalent, as equal to any boy I ever played with. And like coming into this arena, I guess I could call it, is nothing different. I still fight as hard, I guess, to try to be seen equally. And it's difficult. Sometimes I get so mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy posts a selfie, and talking about his recovery, gets loved, liked, all that. When I do, oh, you're an attention whore. You just want dudes to comment on your pictures. Oh, you're such a skank, this and that. And I'm like, my mind's blown. I was like, oh, God. Okay.
I totally agree with you. My primary addiction was food. So I was always overweight. So I never put pictures of myself anywhere. And then when I got in shape, I would start posting pictures because I was like, wow, I could finally do this. I was heavy till I was 24. And for me, it's new. So when I post my pictures at the gym or in shorts or whatever, and people comment and say, I can't believe you're posting that. You need men to comment. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't need anybody to comment. My picture's not for you. It's for me. And people don't get that.
Right.
They're like, seriously? Yeah. It's not about you. My picture and my post isn't about you. So that's new to a lot of people too. and they don't sometimes hear the message. They go, oh, look at this hot blonde chick posting about her addiction. Oh, she wants guys to like her. No, they miss the whole message. We post, I see you post in a sweatshirt. You're not in a bikini in the snow posting for that. You're posting for the message. And people can't get past that sometimes. They get stuck in that ego side where their ego says, this person's now bigger than you or better than you, and you can't have that. So you have to degrade her to make yourself feel better. And what I tell people is there's clean and sober, and then there's recovered. If you're judging me, you might be clean and sober, but you're not recovered. Recovered is when you don't judge other people and we can all work together.
Totally agree. I have this saying that, if somebody says something negative about you, it is only because they could first recognize it within themselves. And, I thought about that for a long time, and I'm like, well, that's very true. So that's how I stick to it. It's okay. On my page, when people share my videos, I see some people get flack for sharing my videos. And I just tell people, if you got to hate on somebody, like, come straight to the source. Call me the junkie instead of the rest of the world, the people who are spreading the message. I'm not bothered by it anymore. And, maybe people don't take me as seriously because I'm a female. That's okay. That's okay. It's still working. So, yeah, I still continue doing it. And there were a couple of times where I wanted to stop. I'm like, God, screw all this. Are you kidding me? But I just continued. And I'm very grateful for everything that's transpired because it's mind-blowing how big it is now.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And like I said, I thank you for doing the work you're doing because it's not easy. It's hard work. And reaching people and getting through is so imperative to where we are today with the addiction culture. And there's so many people that don't want to do it because it's not easy to put yourself out there, to get scrutinized and judged on a daily basis, like you do. So I want to thank you for that personally, because it's very well appreciated.
Thank you. Well, you don't get into this to benefit yourself. I don't find, what I do particularly beneficial to me. It's not my favorite thing in the world to go out and tell people, hey, I was a junkie. This is what I did, while I was pregnant. These are the mistakes I've made. It doesn't feel good inside to do that, but I do it because it helps other people. I think a lot of people have this skewed image, like you get into it for fame and all these things. Like, you wouldn't last a day if that's the reason why you got into it. Because the first, mother that just buried their child that needs to call you up on the phone right now and pour her heart out to you and all of her pain out to you, you would stop right then and there. It's difficult dealing with it on a daily basis, but I got a bigger picture of it, wanting to actually change something. As long as your heart's in the right place, you can and will succeed doing it.
Yeah.
I believe that.
I agree. And that's awesome. So tell our listeners how they can find you. What's your Facebook handle? Do you have Twitter, Instagram? Let's give them some information. And then we'll also post that up on the webpage as well so they can find you and see your videos and interact with you.
Well, my Facebook page is Chanda Lynn, CHANDA, LYNN, or at Chanda Lynn 33. I do have a Twitter, but it's on my old phone, and I never really used it, so I have to get that started back up again. And I believe my Instagram is Poetry of Chanda. So yeah, I mostly use the Facebook page, and there are not many other Chanda Lynns out there, so you should be able to find me pretty easy.
Awesome.
That's where I am.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on, and we'll get this posted up for our listeners and for yours as well, so they can interact with you and get to know more about you as a person as they enjoy your poetry and your rapping and everything on Facebook.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Have a great day. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape, in love with my pain. I may be awake, but I'm alive, still alive, and I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe. I took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from